Maths is one of the subjects that you either get or you don't, and there will be plenty of people who do get it and plenty of people who don't get it, and that's an important thing to understand first. But either way, you still need to actually spend a lot of time revising, focusing on all the key areas in maths. Okay, breaking down the course, there are 3 papers either way, each an hour and a half. 2 of them are calculator, 1 non-calculator, so you do really need to be comfortable using the calculator. And each one will be out of 80, which means it's simple enough out of 240 overall. Okay, then there are 3 assessment objectives from Edexcel here. So one is actually just using the techniques. Some of it's about reasoning, interpreting, and the other is about solving problems. And at a higher tier, 30% of the marks should be available for solving problems, which means you do need to be aware that they might throw something in there in an unusual context that you're not aware of. Okay, with especially with the higher tier papers, there'll be more challenging questions towards the end, even though both build up. But with the higher tier, you're probably likely to get a large proof question or maybe some simultaneous equations or something at the end, some longer answer questions. But I think the important thing is to work through them logically. So if you take a question like about Hannah's sweets, where Hannah has a certain number of sweets, she picks a couple out of a bag, and you suddenly got a quadratic equation, don't panic. It's just a slightly different context to the questions you've always been asked. So just work through it, and you hopefully get to the answer you need to. And I think that's the main thing with maths. It'll be fairly tough to actually just keep going through questions and start panicking every time. But actually focusing on what is the question trying to tell you. Is it a proof question? Is it a simplify? Is it solve? Is it show that? There are lots of different types of questions, which means you need to be able to provide lots of different types of answers. Like, for example, an estimate question, would you know to round everything to one significant figure at the start? And with the way that these papers are structured, with the harder ones towards the end, you know that as you go through, there will be more time needed to spend on the last few questions than the first few questions, which means you should plan your time accordingly. With maths, especially this new one, there's a lot more focus on you actually remembering certain things. So there aren't as many formulae given to you, such as you will no longer get the volume of a. What do you not get? I don't think you get the volume of a cone or a pyramid in general, whereas you did before. Well, there are still some you still get, like the volume of a sphere, but it is important to remember you won't be getting everything, and you actually need to understand things as well. So you need to understand given sine, cos, tan values of, I think it's 30, 45, 60, 90, 0, etc. Then you've also got to understand the quadratic formula, as well as other notions, especially with stuff to do with geometry and the different rules between angles and parallel lines, as well as the circle theorems, which you'll need to actually mention in a proof answer. So you can't just say this equals this, but you actually need to focus more on what you need to understand. And as questions will literally ask you, you must provide a reason for each statement you make. At GCSE, a lot of math is just about focusing on understanding what you need to do in a given circumstance, and I feel that if you do that and you don't panic and you take care and make sure you get reasonable answers, so even if you don't get exactly the right answer, you'll get something which might get you a couple of marks for working, especially on a longer question. And I think if you understand that, then GCSE maths is a subject where you can try and aim high.